Greetings, one and all. This is Doc Ock coming to you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central this evening. And yes, you can tell I'm energized because I know black folks is on the rise. At least that's what I have surmised. And right about now, I'm going to hit you with a Kiswahili proverb of the day. Mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka. Mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka. And what does that mean? The child of a snake is also a snake. Or, like father, like son. You can take it either way you like. Okay? The child of a snake is also a snake. Yeah, that's a good one there. All right, so I'm thinking about changing the way I do these Kiswahili proverbs, and I may just start change up a little bit, and instead of doing a new one every day, maybe I'll do a new one once a week, and that way we'll have like a proverb of the week we can use as a theme, because some of these proverbs are so classic, I just want to say them all the time, you know, because they sound so good and they even kind of rhyme. Yeah, you know, I like that kind of stuff anyway. So, we're here tonight. I hope everybody has already given us a like, a thumbs up, and has subscribed to the Tubular Black Facts channel. And if you haven't, I don't know what's taking you so long. How you gonna get strong if you're steady going wrong? It's time to go long. All right? Statue of Liberty play on them. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and read some more from our story of the month. Never Caught, the story of Ona Judge, who was an enslaved African on the plantation of Martha and George Washington, no less. That's right. You heard about George never telling a lie, but did you hear about him and hear about all those people he used to like to buy? Yeah, they didn't tell you about that, did they? Well, we're going to tell you tonight. And let's see, we left off here. Yeah, there we go. We left off, we were talking about the Washingtons, George Washington ascending to the presidency of the United States, first president. Voted in, by the way, with only 69 votes. Because guess what? Everybody didn't vote. And I ain't talking about just the black folks. And I'm not just talking about the women. I'm talking about everybody didn't vote. Even all the property owners did not vote to decide who would be the president. Now, they voted for their electors. And then the electors apparently chose who the president would be. So it was more of like a parliamentary style government that was being run here in the early days. Yeah, y'all didn't never heard about that either. They didn't tell you that, did they? That's right. You can only learn that by actually picking up a book and reading it. And if you don't have any books, that's why I'm here to read some stories to you. So let's get it on. Tonight, we pick up from when they're living in Ona, the slave girl, the enslaved African, has moved with the Washingtons to Philadelphia. She's been living there now about 7 years, and they're describing what's going on in terms of that institution of slavery, that infamous, ignoble institution that this country is based on. Resolving the issue of slavery in the United States became one of Benjamin Franklin's final missions. Near the end of Ben Franklin's life and around the time when Ona walked along Philadelphia's cobblestone streets for the first time, Ben Franklin did something that his younger self would have thought insane. You hear that? Ben Franklin did something he would have thought he was insane when he was a youngster. He presented a petition to the U.S. Congress for the abolishment of slavery. The abolition, that means the end of slavery. He called slavery an atrocious debasement of human nature. That's what Ben Franklin called it. You know, I always did think I kind of liked that guy. He looked kind of funny with that long, stringy hair and no beard, but clearly he was a man on the right track. The man had changed his mind. Ordinarily, it would have made sense for the wife of the new president to visit this famous man. George Washington obviously knew Ben Franklin. It would have been impossible for him not to know Franklin. Despite this, Franklin was probably not anywhere on Martha's need to see list. I wonder why. She didn't want to pretend to share common ground with Ben Franklin or any other abolitionist. She had no intention of giving up her slaves, and in fact would do everything in her power to shield Ona and the rest of her slaves from the contagion of liberty. The contagion, that's a plague. That's COVID-19. She treated liberty as if it was COVID-19 for the slaves. And this contagion seemed to be spreading throughout Philadelphia. It turns out that Martha did not do enough, or perhaps she always surrounded herself with people who thought like her. She didn't realize the size of her opposition. Besides conflicting with Ben Franklin's stance, Martha's stance on slavery collided directly with the practices of Philadelphia's foundational religion, Quakerism. That's right, Quakerism, those Quakers. They were shaking and baking. The colony of Pennsylvania had been founded by William Penn in 1681. Penn and many of the people who'd come with him had been Quakers, members of a Christian religious group called the Society of Friends. They believed in the light of God within every person, not just within priests or popes or important men in the church. Indeed, equality between the sexes was also a basic guideline for Quakers. Basic guideline. Boy, they were progressive. Okay, I have to give it to them on that part. The Quakers, also called Friends, believed among other things in peace, equality, and simplicity. And they were wholly opposed to treating any person, even a king or a president, as superior to any other. When the colony of Pennsylvania was established in the late 17th century, Quakers, like many other European landowners in the colonies, owned slaves. They thought it was okay because they believed that they treated their slaves humanely. It wasn't okay, and Quakers soon admitted this. A little less than 100 years before Ona's birth in 1688, a number of Quakers in Germantown, Pennsylvania, about 8 miles away from Independence Hall, declared that slavery itself went against Quaker ideals of equality. It was a bold statement and had consequences. Many of these Germantown Quakers were bullied and financially sabotaged for their declaration. But the moral misgivings persisted. In 1711, Quakers from Chester County, Pennsylvania, about 20 miles from Philly, asked the members of their congregation to stop purchasing new slaves. That was a progressive idea back in the day. Further, they went on record to suggest that all Friends withdraw from the slave trade. By 1758, all Quakers in Pennsylvania forbade their members from owning slaves or otherwise participating in the slave trade. By the time Martha and her procession arrived, the Quakers were speaking constantly to anyone, anywhere about the evils of slavery. But it wasn't only the Quakers. There were people besides Quakers and black men and women who opposed slavery in Philadelphia. Matthew Carey, an Irish-born Catholic, was one of them. At the time, one way people received information, news, weather, politics was through a printed document similar to a newspaper page. Remember, this was 200 years before computers, and even further back when you think about cell phones. To reach as many people as possible, particularly about an important event, printers would make copies of what they called broadsides, a document that could be plastered all over the broad side of a building, similar to the huge movie posters at bus stops or other large advertisements that are created today. People would have a hard time not seeing them. Carey was a printer who had once worked for Ben Franklin in 1789. He reprinted a famous broadside that had come to the U.S. from London. It was called Description of a Slave Ship. And its publication marked one of the first times that the people of both Great Britain and the United States could actually learn for themselves what it meant to transport thousands of Africans to the shores of the Americas. The broadside showed everyone that the slave trade was brutal, completely inhumane. Illustrations of the ship above the text showed Africans packed together like sardines as tightly as possible with no attention paid to space, cleanliness, hunger, or human dignity. When the broadside was printed in Philly, it gave the Quakers and all the other abolitionists, as well as anyone who did not hold an opinion about the enslavement of humans, an image of such suffering and pain that the movement to end slavery in Pennsylvania was given a huge shove forward. When Martha and Robert Lewis and Ona and the rest of them arrived in Philadelphia in May of 1789, the broadside was everywhere. Everyone was talking about it. People would shout from the streets that slavery was a disgrace, that it was an abomination. Even at the stylish places where Martha went, the stores, the gardens, the homes, the broadside was visible. Martha would have had to turn her face and force her eyes to connect with something that did not bring up such a personally disruptive subject. She found it very objectionable. Wherever Martha went, Ona went. When Martha turned her head to avoid the broadside, Ona would have seen it. Even though she couldn't read or write, the picture would have startled her. She would not have had time to study it because Martha would have been on the move. Still, as Ona walked behind Martha's carriage, As Ona walked behind Martha's carriage along the 20 blocks from Gray's Ferry to the Morris's home, she would have been struck by a realization so strong that it was like the force that cracked Philadelphia's Liberty Bell. There she was, wearing her best dress, her hair neatly combed, behind the carriage of the wife of the president, a little comfortable, perhaps a little proud, in the knowledge that she was one of Martha Washington's personal slaves and not, for example, stuck in a wheat field or shackled inside a slave ship. But then she may have looked around. Some people may have been staring at her, black people. Perhaps she caught the eyes of someone and recognized him as a free black man. Next to him, possibly, was a free black woman. And next to them, more little free black niños, little free black children. None of them would have seemed impressed by her. Instead, they would have seemed bothered and offended their own selves. Think about moments when a new discovery may have turned your head upside down about the nature of things, and then think back about Ona and how she must have felt when she met free black men and women in Philadelphia. She would have realized that pride in working for the president and his wife was also a cloud that kept her from seeing what was obvious to free black men and women, that her pride needed to be replaced with fury. Yeah, I'm talking Furious 5 kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? So much was new. So much was strange. And now she was confronted with the fact that some black people in this northern state did not think the way her family did, that it was possible to live only the way she and her family had always lived at Mount Vernon, in bondage from birth until death, from sunup to sundown, from can't see in the morning to can't see at night. Ona would not know yet that there were successful, black professionals living freely and relatively happily in the United States of America, such as the astronomer Benjamin Banneker, or the poet Jupiter Hammond, that was coming. Even without knowing, Ona would have felt the rumblings of discontent, the sense that her life as she knew it was based on flawed understandings, the bitter fact that she was enslaved. The bitter fact that she was enslaved did not change the better fact that her mind was free to think as she chose. In this spirit, Ona entered Philadelphia with a locked sense of how the world was and left Philadelphia with a sense of how it could be, even for her. Wow. Well, that was a powerful chapter, and that wasn't even the whole chapter because we read half of it yesterday. But certainly, very powerful stuff there. Powerful ideas, all about freedom, life, liberty, and the so-called pursuit of happiness. Get it if you can, and if you can't, oh well, you're bad. So sad. Wish you could. I already did. That's how some people think anyway. That's not how I think. I'm just saying though. Some people do think that way. Meanwhile, moving on. That is our story for the night. We're going to go ahead and sign off here. We did do a presentation earlier today on Santiago de Matamoros and the Black Madonna, but we weren't really happy with it. We weren't really satisfied with it, so we're going to redo that because we didn't really feel like we hit on all the points we were trying to hit on. And for us, that's important because we would like to have our presentations as solid as possible so that they will stand for all time. Long after we're gone, you'll be able to come back here and see these presentations again. So we'll go back and redo it. And in the course of redoing it, we made some more discoveries about more imagery that's out there of some of our main characters in that story, like Saint Maurice. So look for it. We'll be posting it up hopefully sometime this evening, and if not, then sometime tomorrow, and we'll have something else for you on tomorrow. In the meanwhile, peace out without a doubt. Please don't forget to give us a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe below. And all you children out there, it goes without saying, you already know what you need to do. I'll just leave you with our proverb for the day. Mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka. Okay? The child of a snake is also a snake. Or, like father, like son. Peace out without a doubt, y'all.